The ballroom on the 42nd floor holds 200 people, and Min-jun has looked at exactly none of them. He stands near the tall windows with a glass of champagne he has not tasted, watching Manhattan glitter far below, and the party moves around him the way weather moves around a building. 50 guests have come to him already tonight. He counted without meaning to. 50 handshakes, 50 smiles arranged like place settings, 50 people who wanted something and dressed the wanting up as conversation. He gave each of them 4 seconds and felt nothing. This is the part nobody warns you about when you inherit a kingdom. Not the violence, the numbness. The way a room full of beautiful people begins to look like a room full of mirrors, every face reflecting back what it thinks you want to see. His business partner, June, stands 2 feet to his left, not talking, because June understands that some silences are doing work. Across the floor, a woman in a silver gown has been angling toward Min-jun for 10 minutes, recalculating her approach each time someone cuts her off. She is the kind of beautiful that gets photographed. He knows he will give her 4 seconds too. And then, near the service doors, something happens that is not for him. A waitress is crossing the floor with a tray of champagne held high, threading the gap between 2 clusters of guests, and her heel catches the edge of a rug. The tray tips. For 1/2 second, the whole thing is about to go down in front of 200 people in evening dress. She drops, pivots, gets a hand under the tray, and saves every glass but one, which tips against her wrist and soaks her sleeve. And she laughs. Not a nervous laugh. Not a laugh for anyone. A real, surprised, delighted laugh at herself, at the absurdity of nearly going down in a room like this. 3 seconds of warmth breaking across her face before she catches it and folds it back into the neutral expression the job requires. She glances around to see if anyone noticed. She does not look at him. She has no idea he exists. Min-jun forgets the champagne in his hand. It is not the kind of thing that should stop a man. He has watched people walk into gunfire with less expression than these guests wear to a party. But that laugh goes through him like a sound he has not heard in years and did not know he missed. And for a moment he cannot remember what he was thinking about before it. The woman in the silver gown finally reaches him. She says something graceful. He says something back, he is not sure what. And the whole time his eyes are tracking a black and white uniform moving toward the service doors, wringing champagne out of one sleeve. "You're staring," June says quietly, not turning his head. "I'm not. You walked past 50 people tonight and looked at the floor. You're staring." The service door swings shut behind her. Min-jun sets his untouched glass on a passing tray. Something has shifted in his chest, quiet and total, the way a lock turns. "Find out who she is," he says. June finally looks at him. In 8 years he has never once heard that particular tone, and both of them know it. "The waitress," June says. Not a question. A man confirming the size of what just happened. "Before we leave tonight," Min-jun says, "I want her name." Now, if you have ever watched someone who has everything feel absolutely nothing, year after year, until one ordinary moment cracks the whole thing open, then stay with this story. Subscribe if you have not already, because what happens to these 2 people over the next 40 minutes is the kind of thing that takes a lifetime to find and one breath to recognize. Min-jun is 28 years old, and he did not choose any of this. His father built the park organization out of the Brooklyn waterfront over 30 years, shipping, warehousing, the slow, patient business of controlling what moves through a port and who pays for the privilege. It was supposed to go to Tae-jun. Min-jun's older brother was the heir, the charming one, the one who could walk into any room and own it. Min-jun was going to be left alone to be something else. He had not yet decided what. Then Tae-jun was killed, 26 years old, in a dispute that was never fully explained to the family, in the world their father had built. And at 24, with the funeral flowers still fresh, Min-jun inherited a kingdom he had spent his whole life planning to avoid. For years now. For years of learning a business written in a language he never wanted to speak. And somewhere in the first year, standing over a ledger that turned human beings into line items, he made a decision he has told almost no one. He is going to take this entire thing apart, and rebuild it as something that does not require anyone to bleed. Legitimate shipping. Real logistics. Contracts with names on them. The old guard thinks he is soft. Minjun lets them think it, because the alternative is explaining that he watched it kill his brother and he would rather lose the empire than become it. This is not the stillness of a man at peace. It is the stillness of a man carrying something too heavy to set down in public. 3 mornings a week, before the city is fully awake, he drives to a boxing gym in Sunset Park that his organization quietly funds and nobody knows he owns. He teaches kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, from the same blocks he grew up on. He shows them how to keep their hands up, how to move, how to walk away from a fight they can win. He is better with those kids than he is with anyone in a tuxedo. In the gym, nobody performs for him. They are too busy learning to throw a jab. Jun has been with him since before Taejun died. He says maybe 40 words a day, and every one of them lands. He does not give advice. He gives information, sets it down, and lets Minjun decide what to do with it. He would walk into anything for Minjun and has, more than once, and neither of them has ever said the word loyalty out loud because saying it would cheapen it. By the time the car pulls away from the gala that night, Jun has a folded sheet of paper. Her name is Imani, he says, handing it across the back seat. 26. Catering tonight. Days she works a coffee place in the village. She's an actress. Auditions when she can get them. Minjun unfolds the paper and looks at a name he has known for 11 minutes and cannot stop thinking about. She has no idea who I am, he says. No, Jun says. She doesn't. And for the first time and longer than he can remember, Minjun feels something that is not the weight. It feels dangerously like hope. Imani Carter has 4 hours of sleep in her and a 6 a.m. shift, and she is doing the math on her life again on the train home. The catering gig paid well. It always does. Those rooms full of people who spend more on a watch than she makes in 3 months. She is good at being invisible in them, good at the neutral face, good at carrying a tray through a crowd like she was born holding one. She was not born holding one. She was born in the Bronx, to a mother who worked 2 jobs and a brother who used to make her laugh so hard she'd forget to be scared of anything. She came to this city to act. 5 years ago, 21 years old, certain that if she wanted it badly enough, the city would have to make room. The city did not get the memo. 5 years later, she is 26 and working a coffee counter and catering galas and auditioning for commercials that go to women with better connections. And she is still here because giving up was never actually one of the options. Her mother raised her on a simple idea. You already know what you know. Nobody can audition that out of you. She thinks about her brother on the train. She does this without deciding to. Deshawn would have loved tonight, would have wanted every detail, the silver gowns, the champagne, the man she nearly dumped a tray on. He collected the world's absurdities like other people collect grievances. He was 24 when he was killed. She was 22. 4 years ago now, in a dispute over warehouse territory on the Brooklyn waterfront that had nothing to do with him, except that he was standing in the wrong place when 2 crews decided a stretch of pier was worth dying over. Nobody was ever arrested. Nobody ever explained it. He was just walking home from a job, and then he was a phone call that split her life into before and after, and the city that took him kept right on glittering like nothing had happened. She does not let herself live there. She has a rule about it. She visits Deshawn in small, deliberate doses, the way you press on a bruise to check that it is still yours, and then she puts him away and goes back to the work of being alive. It is the only way she has found to carry him without being crushed. The train comes up out of the tunnel, and the sky over the river is going gray toward morning. Tonight, for one stupid second, she nearly took out a $4,000 tray of champagne in front of Manhattan's finest, and instead of dying of embarrassment, she had laughed, because Deshawn would have laughed, because the look on the maitre d's face was genuinely funny, and because some part of her refuses to let those rooms take her sense of humor along with everything else. She gets home to the apartment she shares with 2 roommates and a radiator that bangs all night. She sets out her coffee shop clothes. She runs her audition sides one more time, a monologue for a part she will probably not get, speaking quietly into the dark so she does not wake anyone. She is good. She knows she is good. That is almost the hardest part. She falls asleep with the pages on her chest and no idea that a man in a 42nd floor ballroom is, at that exact moment, looking at her name on a folded piece of paper and feeling his whole life tilt. The coffee shop in the village opens at 6, and at 6:15 the most dangerous man Imani will ever meet walks in wearing a plain dark jacket and orders a black coffee like a normal person. She does not know that yet. She knows he is too composed for the hour, that his jacket costs more than it admits to, and that he is watching her the way some men watch women, except not quite. Not the menu look, not the cataloging look. Something steadier and stranger. She has had enough practice with men in nice clothes to keep her face pleasant and her guard exactly where it lives. Black coffee, she says, ringing it up. Anything else? No, he says. Thank you. And then, after a pause that costs him something, we haven't met. I was at the event last night. The one at the Aldrich. Her hands do not stop moving. We get a lot of events. You almost dropped a tray of champagne, he says. You caught it. And then you laughed. Now her hands stop. She looks at him fully for the first time, and something in her chest goes very alert, because men do not track waitresses from galas to coffee shops for good reasons. I think you've got the wrong person. I don't, he says. He does not move closer. He keeps both hands visible on the counter, like he knows exactly how this looks, and is trying to take up less space than his presence wants to. I'm going to be honest with you, because I think you'll see through anything else. I saw you laugh last night. In a room where nobody was real, you were the only real thing in it, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. I found out where you work. I know how that sounds. I'm not here to scare you, and I'm not going to make you uncomfortable. I just couldn't not come. It is, hands down, the strangest thing anyone has ever said to her over a register. That, she says slowly, is a lot of honesty for 6 in the morning. You'd prefer a line? I'd prefer to know why a man like you. She gestures, the jacket, the stillness, the whole carefully contained fact of him, is following a waitress around Manhattan. Because you laughed, he says simply, and I forgot I was bored. A regular clears his throat in line behind him. The espresso machine hisses. Imani is aware of all of it, and aware that her pulse is doing something inconvenient, and she does not trust a single thing about this except that he has not lied to her, which is more than she can say for most men in better lighting. I'm working, she says. I know. I'll go. He picks up his coffee. And then, the honesty again, like he cannot help it. Have dinner with me. 1 hour. Somewhere you pick, somewhere with people around, your rules. If you hate it, I'll never come back here again. You have my word, and my word is the only thing I've never broken. She should say no. Every rule she has ever made says no. 1 hour, she hears herself say. My neighborhood. And you're buying. Something moves across his face that is almost a smile and is more honest than a smile. What's your name? She asks, because she realizes she still doesn't have it. Minjun, he says. And he is gone before she can decide what she has just done. She picks a Caribbean place on a loud corner 2 blocks from her apartment, because it is hers, because the owner knows her, and because if this man turns out to be exactly what her instincts keep warning her he is, she wants to be on her own ground. Minjun shows up in the same plain jacket, looking slightly out of place and not pretending otherwise, and that is the first thing that disarms her. He does not try to own the room. He lets her order first. He asks the owner's name and remembers it. When the food comes, he eats like a man who has not enjoyed a meal in a long time and is surprised to be enjoying this one. So, she says, halfway through. Let me guess. Finance. No. Real estate. Closer than you'd think. There is something dry under it. Almost funny, like a joke only he can see. She watches him. He is not what she braced for. She braced for charm, for the practiced kind, the kind that wants something. What she gets instead is a man who is clearly more comfortable being honest than being smooth, who answers her questions a beat too directly, who laughs, actually laughs, when she tells the story of the worst audition of her life, A regional yogurt commercial where she had to pretend a spoon was the best thing that ever happened to her. That's the dream, he asks. Acting. That's the dream. The yogurt was a detour. You're good, he says. It is not a compliment fishing for anything. It is a man stating an assessment. I can tell from how you tell a story. You don't rush the part that matters. She feels that land somewhere she does not let people reach. She covers it by stealing a planet off his plate. He tells her about a gym in Sunset Park, about kids he teaches 3 mornings a week, the 8-year-old with the perfect left hook and no patience, the way the gym smells like rubber and effort, and the way his whole face changes when he talks about it tells her more than anything he has said. This is the realist he has been all night. Whatever else he is, that part is true. You don't seem like a guy who has trouble getting people to like him, she says. So why the waitress in the coffee shop? Really? Because everyone I meet wants something, he says. And I always know what it is inside of 4 seconds. You. He looks at her. Weren't even looking at me. You laughed because something was funny. I'd forgotten people did that. The hour is almost up. She is aware of it the way you are aware of a song ending. She has watched him 3 times tonight when he did not know she was watching. The way he turns his coffee cup, the small scar through his eyebrow, the way the weight comes back into his shoulders whenever the conversation pauses, like something heavy he sets down only when she makes him laugh. And she realizes she does not actually know one true fact about what this man does with his days. The gym is real, but the gym is not a job. The jacket, the stillness, the way 2 men at the door tonight clocked him and then very deliberately did not look. None of it adds up to anything she can name. So she asks, the question she has been holding since 6:15 this morning. Min-jun. She sets down her fork. What do you actually do? For work. The real answer. And she watches the easy thing go out of his face, replaced by something careful, something that has been waiting all night for exactly this question. He is quiet for a long moment. Then he says, Are you sure you want the real answer? I want the real answer, Imani says. I've had enough of the other kind to last a lifetime. Min-jun nods slowly, like a man accepting the terms of something. He glances once at the door, then back at her, and when he speaks his voice is low and even and does not flinch. My family runs an organization, he says. On the Brooklyn waterfront. Shipping, warehousing, the things that move through a port. Some of it is legal. A lot of it, historically, has not been. My father built it. My brother was supposed to run it. My brother was killed, and at 24 I inherited it instead. He keeps his eyes on hers. I'm telling you what I am because you'll find out anyway, and because I would rather lose this at the table tonight than build it on a lie. She has gone very still. The restaurant is loud around them, and she hears none of it. You're telling me you're a criminal, she says. I'm telling you I inherited one man's crimes, and I'm trying to turn them into something that doesn't hurt anyone, he says. I've done things I'm not proud of. I won't pretend I haven't. But every day for 4 years I've been pulling this thing toward legitimate, contract by contract, against people who'd rather I didn't. That's the real answer. That's the work. A pause. I'm not a good man yet. I'm a man trying to become one. I won't insult you by claiming the first part. Imani looks at her plate. Something is moving in her chest, and she cannot name it yet. Only that the word waterfront went through her like cold water, and she does not fully understand why, except that the waterfront is where the city keeps its worst arithmetic, and she has paid into that arithmetic already, more than anyone should have to. She thinks of Deshawn without deciding to. She thinks, this is the world that took him. Some version of this man's world. She does not yet think it was this man's world specifically. She is not ready to think that, and so she does not. Why are you telling me all of this? She says. You don't know me. Because I want to, he says. And I won't do that on a lie. If you stand up and leave right now, I'll pay the check, and I'll never come back to your coffee shop. You'll never see me again. That's a promise, same as the other one. She should leave. Every rule, Shia says leave. She made those rules in a hospital hallway 4 years ago, and they have kept her safe ever since. But she looks at him, at the honesty that has not slipped once all night, at the man who teaches 8-year-olds to walk away from fights, at the weight in his shoulders that she somehow already wants to help him carry, and she does not stand up. I'm not saying yes to anything, she says carefully. I'm saying I'm not leaving yet. That's all. That's the whole thing. That's enough, he says. And the relief that crosses his face is so real it almost hurts to look at. What neither of them sees is the car parked across the street, or the man in it who has been watching the restaurant for 40 minutes and is, at that moment, lifting a phone to his ear. His name is Victor Park. He has run the waterfront corridor for 11 years, and he has just watched the heir to the entire organization fall in love with the problem. We have a situation, Victor says into the phone, and we're going to take care of it quietly. It is 3 weeks later, and Imani has fallen for him, which terrifies her more than anything his world could. It happened in small ways. Coffee that turned into walks. A morning he brought her to the gym, and she watched him kneel down to a kid's level to fix the angle of a small fist, patient in a way that no performance could fake. He texts like a man who means it. He shows up when he says he will. He has not pushed her past a single boundary she set. He is, against every expectation she walked in with, gentle, not the stillness of a dangerous man pretending to be safe, but a dangerous man choosing, every single day, to be safe with her. And then, on a Sunday, the connection she has been circling for 3 weeks finally closes. They are walking near the water in Red Hook because he wanted to show her something. A row of old warehouses his organization owns, the first ones he is converting fully legitimate, is proof to her that the work is real. He stands there in the wind off the harbor, pointing at a long brick building, talking about contracts and union labor and the future he is trying to build. This whole corridor, he says, peer-to-peer. It's been ours for 30 years. This is where it all runs through. And Imani goes cold from the feet up, because she knows this corridor. She knows these piers. She knows the exact stretch of this waterfront, because 4 years ago a detective said its name to her in a hospital hallway while explaining where her brother died. Deshawn was killed over warehouse territory on this waterfront. This waterfront. The corridor that has been the park organization's for 30 years. The dispute that ended her brother's life happened inside the kingdom Min Jun inherited, between crews who were paying for the privilege of operating on park ground. She does not say anything. The wind off the harbor is sharp and salt-smelling, and she lets it sting her eyes so she does not have to explain them. She carries it for the rest of the afternoon. She carries it through dinner. She carries it home and lies awake with it, turning it over and over. That the man she is falling for is the inheritor of the exact world that took Deshawn. That his family profited, for 30 years, off the same stretch of concrete where her brother bled out at 24. That none of it was personal, which is somehow worse, because Deshawn was not even a target. He was just standing on ground that belonged, in the end, to people like the man holding her hand. She does not decide to confront him. Confrontation is not the truth she needs to spend. What she needs is something harder and quieter. She calls him the next night and asks him to come over, and when he does, she does not raise her voice. I need to tell you something about my brother, she says. His name was Deshawn. He was 24. 4 years ago, he was killed over warehouse territory on the Brooklyn waterfront. She watches his face change, watches him begin to understand before she finishes. On the corridor you showed me yesterday, the one that's been your family's for 30 years. The silence that follows is the loudest thing in the room. Imani, Min Jun says, and his voice is not steady anymore. I'm not accusing you, she says. You were a kid. You didn't do it. But I need you to sit in it with me for a second, because I can't pretend I don't know it. I've spent my whole life refusing to lie. I'm not going to start with you. Min Jun does not defend himself. That is the first thing, and it is the thing that undoes her. He does not say it wasn't me. He does not reach for the distance that would be so easy to reach for. He sits down across from her, and he stays in it, the way she asked, and when he finally speaks his voice is rough. Tell me about him, he says. Not how he died, who he was. So she does. She tells him about Deshawn for an hour, the absurd jokes, the way he collected the world's ridiculous details, the way he made her unafraid. She has not talked about her brother like this to anyone since the funeral. Min Jun listens the way he does everything that matters, completely, And at the end of it, there are things in both their faces that neither of them tries to hide. I'm going to find out what happened, he says quietly. Not to excuse it, to know it. You've spent 4 years with no one explaining it to you. I can get the answer. If you want it. It is not a gift she expected. It is, maybe, the only thing anyone has offered her in 4 years that is actually worth something. Over the next days, something shifts between them that neither names out loud. He brings her deeper into the real parts of his life. She watches him stand in a room full of men twice his age, the old guard, the ones who liked the waterfront the way it was, and tell them, flatly, that the Red Hook corridor is going fully legitimate and the tribute system that has run on those piers for 30 years is over. She watches grown men who frighten everyone else go quiet under a 28-year-old certainty. She sees, for the first time, exactly what he is and exactly what he is trying to become, standing in the same body at the same time. And she lets him see her, too. She brings him to a tiny black box theater in the East Village where she has been cast. Finally, a real part, a real play, 8 performances. He sits in the third row of 40 folding chairs and watches her become someone else entirely under a single stage light, and afterward he cannot speak for a moment, because he understands now what she meant about the dream and why she never gave it up. It is June who says the truest thing, the way he always does, sideways and almost by accident. The three of them are in the gym late one night, Imani laughing at something, Minjun watching her instead of the heavy bag he is supposed to be hitting. June, wrapping his hands at the bench, does not look up. You haven't checked your phone in 2 hours, June says. In 8 years I've never seen you do that. That is all. He goes back to wrapping his hands. But Minjun stops and looks at the man who has stood beside him through everything and understands that June has just told him what he has been too afraid to tell himself. Now, quick question while you're here, because I want to know what you think. The moment he stopped checking his phone, or the moment she chose not to walk away in the restaurant? Which one was the point of no return? Tell me in the comments. I read them. Because what neither of them knows, standing in that gym with the whole thing finally turning warm, is that Victor Park has already made his move. The papers are already drawn. The call to Imani's catering agency has already been made. And tomorrow morning, the cost of all of this is going to land on the one person Minjun cannot protect by force. It lands at 9 in the morning, the way these things do, dressed up as paperwork. Imani is fired from the catering agency by phone. A conduct complaint, vague and unappealable, the kind that does not need to be true to end you. By noon she has learned she is quietly blacklisted from every high-end event company in the city. Her main income, gone in 3 hours, with a politeness that makes it worse. And in the afternoon, a man she has never met is waiting outside her coffee shop. He does not threaten her. He does not have to. Miss Carter, Victor Park says, I think you should understand the shape of the situation you're in. He is calm, almost kind, and that is the most frightening part. He explains it like a man explaining weather. Minjun is the heir to something larger than the boy thinks. The organization has survived 30 years by removing complications before they become catastrophes. She is, with regret, a complication. He tells her things about Minjun's world designed to land exactly where her oldest fears lie. That men around Minjun get hurt. That women around men like Minjun get hurt. That her mother in the Bronx is one phone call from becoming part of the arithmetic. Some of it is true. He is careful to use enough truth to carry the rest. None of this has to touch you, Victor says. You simply have to stop. Disappear. He'll grieve and he'll move on, because that's what men in his position do. And everyone you love stays exactly as safe as they are right now. He lets that sit. I'm not a cruel man, Miss Carter. I'm a man protecting something I've spent my life building. I'd think you, of all people, would understand what it costs when this world decides someone is in the way. That last line is the one that breaks her, because he is right, and he knows he is right, and he chose it on purpose. She calls Minjun that night. She has been crying, and she does not bother to hide it. I can't do this, she says. I can't be the reason something happens to my mother. I buried my brother to this world, Minjun. I am not going to bury anyone else. I can't. Imani, his voice cracks down the middle. Tell me where he is. Tell me his name. I will handle this tonight. That's exactly the thing I can't be part of, she says, and her voice is shaking and certain at the same time. I can't love someone whose answer to a threat is the same world that killed Deshawn. I won't, even if it's for me. Especially if it's for me. He is quiet for a long, terrible moment. And then, because he is, underneath everything, a man trying to become good, he does the hardest thing. Okay, he says softly. I won't chase you. I won't make this harder than he's already made it. If walking away keeps you safe, then I want you to walk away. I just need you to know it isn't because I didn't fight. It's because the only way to fight him with my fists would prove him right about me. She hangs up before she can change her mind. Across the city, Min-jun sits alone in the dark for a long time. June finds him there near midnight and says nothing for a while. Then June says, quietly, he didn't take her from you. He showed you what you've been too scared to finish. Min-jun looks up, and something in his face has changed from grief into something harder and clearer and far more dangerous to Victor Park than any fist. Min-jun does not go to war. That is the thing Victor never accounted for. He does something Victor cannot survive, precisely because it is legitimate. Over the following weeks, he accelerates everything, pulls the entire Red Hook corridor into the legal company, files the contracts, moves the books into daylight where the old arithmetic cannot live. He dismantles the tribute system peer by peer, which strips Victor of the income, the leverage, and the shadow he has operated in for 11 years. And quietly, through lawyers and documentation and the patient work he has been building for 4 years, he removes Victor from the organization entirely, not with violence, but with the one weapon a man like Victor cannot fight, which is a structure where men like Victor are no longer necessary. He also keeps his promise. He finds out what happened to Deshawn. The cruise, the dispute, the chain of decisions that put her brother in the wrong stretch of concrete on the wrong night. He writes it all down, everything she was never told, and he holds it because it is hers, and he will not deliver it until she wants it. Then he waits. He does not call. He does not show up at her coffee shop. He gave his word, and his word is the only thing he has never broken. Imani finds out the way the truth usually arrives, sideways. A former co-worker mentions that the waterfront company has gone fully legal, that the old guard got cleaned out, that some young guy did in 6 weeks what nobody believed possible. She reads about it. The Red Hook corridor, legitimate. The man who ran it for 30 years worth of fear, gone. And she understands what she is looking at. He did not answer Victor with the world that killed her brother. He answered by ending that world. He did the thing she said she could not love him without. She goes to the gym on a Saturday morning, because she knows his schedule, because some part of her has known for weeks that she was going to do this. He is teaching the 8-year-old the left hook again. He looks up and sees her in the doorway and goes completely still, the way he did the first night, in the ballroom, before either of them knew anything. Hi, she says. He crosses the gym. He stops a careful arm's length away, still keeping his distance even now, still letting her set the terms. You did it, she says. All of it. Without becoming the thing that took him, he says. Yes, that was the only version worth doing. She closes the distance he left her. I spent 4 years making rules to keep myself safe, she says, and you are every single one of them broken at once. And I don't care. I love you. I fought it and I ran from it, and I am done running, because you are the only honest thing I have found in a city full of performances, and I am not letting the worst day of my life decide the rest of it. I love you, Min-jun says, plainly, the way he says everything that matters. I have since you laughed at yourself in a room full of people who'd forgotten how. I walked past 50 of them that night. I'd have walked past 500. And then there was you. He kisses her, and 4 years of weight comes off his shoulders all at once, and the 8-year-old in the corner makes a loud, disgusted noise, and they both start laughing into it. June, by the door, watching the whole thing, says the last word, the way he always does, flat, quiet, and truer than anything anyone else could manage. Took you long enough, he says. And he goes back to wrapping his hands. If this one got you, the laugh that started it, the truth at the restaurant, or that final morning in the gym, tell me in the comments which moment landed hardest. I read every single one. And if you're new here, subscribe and stay close. Because next time we've got a Korean mafia boss who hasn't felt anything in 3 years, until a black waitress sings one line of a song to herself in an empty restaurant and doesn't know he heard it. You are not going to want to miss what happens when she finds out who was listening. We'll see you there.